Welcome to Credibility by Camera.
Welcome to Credibility by Camera with Kerry Barrett, Emmy Award-winning journalist turned trusted video authority for attorneys and law firms. Kerry shares proven strategies to help you show up with confidence, build trust on screen, and turn your online presence into a powerful business tool. Let's raise your visibility and your credibility one video at a time. Today, we're going to discuss Beyond the Script, how lawyers build trust on camera. Welcome, Kerry. We're so happy to have you here with us today.
I am thrilled to be here, I should say, or there, wherever you want me to be.
As far as I'm concerned, you're remotely in the room with me.
There we go. And it's Friday as of this recording. So, my brain is fried at this point.
That's all good. So tell us, what are the key elements of a strong on-camera delivery for attorneys?
Such an important question. And one of the things that's most challenging when it comes to creating video. I hear a lot of people talk about, well, I don't have the time, or I don't really understand the tech. Both of those things are pretty easy to solve for. Once you have a process, you don't have to worry about the time. And the tech is actually fairly simple. I'm not a technical person, and I manage to create my own studio. What it really comes down to, I find, for most people is it's the quote unquote talking head part. Nobody wants to put their face on camera. And I understand why. It's scary. It's new. It's an artificial environment. It feels very manufactured. There's a whole bunch of mindset and additional challenges that go into putting your face on camera. Yeah. One of the things that I hear most often as it relates to this is, I'm afraid I'm going to sound boring. I'm afraid I'm going to sound like a robot. I am afraid of being judged, oftentimes not just by clients, but I'm afraid I'm going to be judged by peers and colleagues. Yes. And oh my gosh, if I put something that's cringy out there, nobody is going to have any respect for me. I'm going to look like a fool. Like all of these things that run through everybody's mind. And I absolutely get it, because I was there. When I was a broadcaster, when I first started eons ago in my tiny little first TV town of Wichita Falls, Texas, I thought all of those things as well. My video debut was on live television. And trust me, I was not good, not by a long shot when I first started.
That's a lot of pressure too, boy.
It was a lot of pressure, and I whiffed it big time. But my point in saying all of this is, all of those fears are perfectly normal. The idea is to get competent on camera, and then the confidence comes after that. One of the biggest challenges people have when it comes to aligning what they're saying with who they are is energy.
Yes.
I'll dive into a little bit of exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Video is energetically flattening. And what I mean by that is, you may deliver with what you think is a very impassioned, powerful take on a particular topic, or answer for a particular question. And then you go back and you watch it and you're like, oh my gosh, I look sedated. What happened? Why does it look like that? And it is because of this energetically flattening effect of video. So the things that come together to make that a problem are several. Number one is, you've got a microphone and you've got a camera lens. So both of them sort of diminish the expression that you might showcase when you are in person with somebody.
Yeah.
Then you've got the fact that you've taken a 3D person, right? So height, width, and depth, and we've put them into this sort of 2D box. So all of those things that you hear about, the camera adding 10 pounds and it creates weird angles, and I feel like, I don't look like myself. All of those things are because of that 3D to 2D sort of compression, if you will. Yeah, then you've got maybe challenges with your internet. And then psychologically, which is probably the biggest factor here.
Amen.
Amen, right? Is that we sort of fall back on I call it reptilian brain, if you've ever heard of it. It's sort of, it's the brain that is designed to keep us safe. And when we get up in front of the camera, we often, unless we're skilled at this, revert back to that reptilian brain. Our brain is trying to keep us safe. So what do we do when we're up on the horizon and we're, back in our reptilian brain, that back when we were cave people and we lived on a cave and we stepped outside of the cave, probably to go hunting. We got up on the horizon and we definitely didn't make big gestures and we certainly didn't make loud noises and we didn't use our voices to their fullest volume, because if we did, we'd attract every predator within like a 20-mile radius.
Exactly. All the saber-toothed tigers would be put on notice. Yeah. So that reptilian brain is like, shrink down, be quiet, don't make sudden movements. Yes.
Exactly. And we view the audience often as the predator. We want to stay safe. And that means we psychologically and physically often shrink when we're in front of the camera as well. So what I generally recommend to people, given all of that, is when you're sitting in front of the camera, think about if you were at one side of a table and say there were 8 people there. You're at one side of a table at a noisy restaurant and you're looking to talk to the person who's on the other side of the table down at the other end. What are some of the things that you would do to make sure that they heard what you were saying and they received it in the way that it was intended? You might lean forward when something is exciting. You might use hand gestures to amplify certain part, 1, 2, 3. I learned these 3 things. You might project your voice a little bit more. Your facial expressions would be more animated. Conceptually, that is exactly what you want to do when you are in front of the video. Now, there are some nuances there. You're not screaming across a 8-person table at a noisy restaurant. Video is a little more intimate than that. But for most people, it's about a 25% bump in energy. So what I always suggest is record a video, go back and watch it, then record it again and bump up your energy significantly, but not till you're at your max. And then watch that. And then do that a total of 5 times so that on the last one, you feel insane.
Yeah, like you're totally over the top.
Yes. And then go back and watch that one. And you will probably find it won't be number 5. That's your sweet spot, but it probably will be right around number 4. Most people need a significant increase in energy to come across the way that they think they are delivering.
Yeah, I could see that. Absolutely. Yeah. So let's talk about some of the challenges that show up when you're standing in front of this camera and things to be aware of. So let's say, for example, I'm really great in person, one-on-one. I'm fluid and I'm warm and people find me engaging, but then I get on camera and I freeze up or the warmth is not coming through.
One of the biggest challenges for video, and this applies really to public speaking in general, is that we as viewers weight nonverbals more so than we do the verbal communication. It's not to say that old statistic of 95% of our communication is done nonverbally. That's been debunked. But if you say, I'm really excited to be here versus I'm really excited to be here, which one do you buy? You buy the first one. You don't buy the second one. So there needs to be congruence between what you're saying and the way that you're saying it. And this is the part that feels very manufactured to many people. They get up in front of the camera and they feel like they're putting on an expression because there's not actually somebody watching them on the other side. But they have to recognize that you're making this for the end user, the viewer, and they are going to want to see you as you. And so communicating as yourself, but amplified to make up for all the stuff that I mentioned before, all of those obstacles that the camera puts in your way. That is one of the best ways to make sure that you are delivering in an authentic way that is connected to the words that you're saying and is connected to the person who is watching at home or at work or wherever.
Yeah, I love that you brought that forward. There's no one watching. Yeah. Because one of the things I discovered in my early video recording is I was better if I had someone I could make eye contact with. And if I was by myself, even if I just got a mirror and I spoke to my own self, it was a much better delivery because I have an audience now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's such a good point. And it's actually one of the things that I work with my clients on. I'll bring my clients through my program, and some then will say, well, I still want to talk to somebody when I'm recording. So I'll do an interview with somebody. We do it for an hour a month. And that way they have that back and forth, and it's easier to, I don't know, play to the crowd, if you will. It's easier to get the energy up. And so then we'll pull, 5 or 6 clips from that interview and create them for social. But you're absolutely right. That's an incredibly common phenomena. I remember the first time that I delivered a webinar as a business owner. Now, mind you, I had been in front of the camera for 20 years. That was
Yeah.
my
Emmy
job.
award winning.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, that's what I did. And I remember the first time is when COVID hit, shortly after I started my business. And I was delivering this webinar and I couldn't see anybody. It was one of those webinars where all the participants were not visible on the screen. And I was
Yeah.
about 5 or 10 minutes in. My lips started going numb. I started spiraling in my head because I
Oh,
couldn't
yeah.
play off the crowd. Couldn't see if they were even watching, for that matter.
Yeah.
And so I relay that story to let people know that that is entirely common, and it's something that is work outable. It just is a matter of doing it with a little bit of guidance, because it gets the pros too.
Indeed. So, how can lawyers or really anyone who's interested in video improve their tone and their delivery without sounding like this person has said this 4 million times?
Yeah. It's to say it fresh each and every time. I sometimes will say in my mind a little preamble, if you will, like, get this or listen up. And I know it
Mhm.
sounds super cheesy, but it's, again, I'm not iterating that. I'm saying it in my mind as a way to pump myself up for saying something that, you might have said or I might have said a million times before. Certainly on the news, got a little repetitive, and I would use that mantra or that preamble to gear myself up and pump myself up. But remember that you may have said this a million times, but your audience likely has not heard it a million times. Even if you're posting about it on the regular, chances are they're not following you as closely as you think they are, and they haven't heard that particular thing before. There's another technique that I like to use called emotion mapping.
Oh,
And I will go through a script that I've created, and I'll do the same thing with my clients. I'll go through scripts with them, and we will plot out what are the emotions that are congruent with this particular sentence. Is it frustration? Is it concern? Is it excitement? Is it happiness? Is it competitiveness? Whatever it is.
right.
And then we'll draw literally with a pen on paper, a smiley face or a frowny face or a concerned face. And that way you're actually writing it down and you're becoming aware of this particular sentence is delivering this particular emotion. And what is it that I need to convey non-verbally to underscore that? And again, it sounds very manufactured, and the truth is you will have to be very deliberate and intentional about it when you first start. But eventually the goal is to have all of these skills that you're able to sort of set aside and use on autopilot, so that you're able to put the audience at the forefront of whatever it is that you're saying. And when you're able to do that, then all of this other stuff also begins to naturally and organically elevate. So the two work together.
So, when you go on video, you watch it back and you see all of your verbal tics and the
Yeah.
gestures you repeat all the time. What kind of body and language habits should attorneys be aware of, both the helpful ones and the kind of distracting, annoying ones?
Absolutely. And I will start by saying this. There is nobody out there who is running you through the fine tooth comb that you are running yourself through. So you see all sorts of errors and flaws that your audience doesn't pick up on. They may pick up on some additional that you weren't aware of, but if you're checking off, I don't like my hair, I don't like this, I don't like the way it said that, my mouth is crooked, I don't know, whatever it may be. They're not running you through that sort of list. They're mostly listening to your message and hoping that they're going to get something out of it. So keep that in mind first. Two things that I see a lot of lawyers do that are not best practices, let's put it that way.
Okay.
One of them is they have a tendency to be monotone. So, and I understand why. They're used to balancing between, they don't want to come across as overly passionate or necessarily forceful or aggressive. If you're talking to a client in the courtroom, may be a different situation, but remember, you're talking to clients when you're on social. And so it's very measured on camera can come across as a little bit evasive. And so you want to make sure that you are delivering in a way that you are using vocal variety and you are using your hand gestures and your facial expressions. I often find with that monotone cadence comes a lack of facial expression. So a very blank face. And that may also be a holdover from wanting to appear neutral when, listening to opposing counsel or whatever, right? Don't show any emotion on your face. When you're talking to a client, and again, that's usually what you're doing when you're on social or on your website, you want to convey those things that make them like and trust you through your facial expressions. So don't keep your face blank. Don't keep it neutral. Make sure that you are conveying through emotion mapping as your facial expressions go, what it is that you feel about what you're saying. So those are two mistakes that I see attorneys making on the regular. Two things that they do very well is they pay attention to detail. And so what I find is that their videos and content in general tend to make a lot of logic. They make a lot of sense. They move through points from A, B, C, and D very clearly. Where that gets tricky is that oftentimes they do also live in the language of their expertise, which to a client is very difficult to understand.
Yeah, it's like listening to Charlie Brown.
Exactly. I have no idea what you said, and now I feel too stupid to ask. So remember, pay attention to those details, but make sure that you're also not living in the language of your expertise. Something else that lawyers do well, and potentially to their detriment when it comes to this, is they are obsessed with perfection. That means that they are fantastic students. It means that they want to make sure that they get their videos right. And there is a way to do them wrong. So that's great. There's a lot of attention to detail and they want to make sure that they get it right. However, there is no such thing as a perfect video. I have 2 Emmy Awards and some other awards. And those shows were not perfect. I was not perfect in those shows. I made mistakes. The fact of the matter is that when you look at a picture of yourself, you see a moment in time and you like the way it looks. You expect to see the same thing on video. But with video, there's movement and there's odd facial expressions you may make here or there. And a lot of people will say, I don't like that video. I don't like what my face is doing. I don't like this, that, or the other thing. Recognize.
And that'll be the thumbnail that the editing software chooses.
It always is something random with your mouth open, right? Eyes crossed. But my point is, attorneys are very good at being perfect. And that lends itself to very detail-oriented and precise videos. However, the counterpoint to that is it also lends itself to people not posting at all because they'll never get a perfect video. So be mindful of that as well.
Yeah, exactly. So what is one small tweak that any attorney could make to instantly boost that trust, connection, and credibility on video?
The easiest tweak is to make sure that you're looking at the camera lens. So often, and this applies to podcasts especially, I see people looking at one another in the monitor, forgetting that the end user, the person that you're actually making the podcast for, is watching you. And if you're not looking in the camera, you are not looking them in the eye. And
Yes.
outside of a smile, hands down, the easiest and best way to build rapport is through eye contact. And we know it's not real eye contact, but nevertheless, it is important to be looking at that camera so that your audience can look into your eyes and build trust and rapport that way.
Yeah. One of my favorite things that I have is one of these, it's a teleprompter
Yeah.
and you can see it, but the camera is like directly behind it. And so
Yeah.
that way you're looking straight into that camera lens no matter what you do.
Yes.
It's one of my favorite tools.
I love that tool, by the way. I use it all the time, obviously, as a newscaster. But when I have a specific script that I know I need to deliver, I do the same thing. And it makes a world of difference with not just the content, but with your ability to deliver looking, quote unquote, in your audience's eyes.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for all of this insight. This has been fabulous.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. And thanks for tuning in to Credibility by Camera. If today's episode helped you think differently about video, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share the show with your colleagues. Ready to elevate your on-camera presence? Head to kerrybarrett.com to learn more. And until next time, keep showing up and let your credibility speak for itself.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.